Welcome to your virtual day trip. Annalise and I will take you with us as we journey to Nonsuch Park.
That's right, Luna, and all you have to do is get comfy and enjoy meeting our guests.
We're here on a glorious June day, but whatever time of year you come, there's plenty to see and do. We'll be exploring the gorgeous grounds.
And we'll be meeting the very skilled volunteers who look after the planting here at the Mansion House Gardens.
And we'll venture into the Service Wing Museum and explore the pantries, kitchens and laundry.
Now that's a lot to pack in. Come on, let's get started.
Nonsuch Park was the site of Nonsuch Palace, commissioned by Henry VIII in the late 1500s. However, it was demolished and the building materials sold off in the 1600s.
The site now includes a beautiful mansion house whose entrance facade is inspired by the Tudor palace. The former servants' hall is a tea room.
It's the perfect place to come for a walk. The cafe has indoor and outdoor seating, ideal for grabbing a breakfast pastry or having lunch and a cuppa with a friend.
There are plenty of free places to park, but if you want to take the bus, number 293 stops on London Road on the edge of the park. Use the Transport for London website to plan your journey.
Most importantly, there are toilets on site, baby changing facilities and accessible loos.
Any four-legged friends can stop for a drink while you check out the news on the notice board.
In the grounds is a Nonsuch Park Forest School. What a wonderful place to come and explore as you learn about the natural world.
You won't be stuck for a place to sit and enjoy the gardens. There are plenty of benches along the garden wall to take a break and admire the fine-looking trees and plants.
You might even be joined by a human or feathered friend.
The gardens are also home to some super friendly squirrels, which is probably one reason dogs can't come into the area. There would be far too much chasing going on.
The Nonsuch Mansion sits inside the gardens with rooms available for weddings and other special events.
The south front of the mansion house has a symmetrical Georgian design and includes Tudor details. It offers stunning views of the gardens and surrounding parkland. During the Georgian era, a large kitchen garden, glass houses and an orchard would have been built to provide for the kitchen's needs.
The gardens are open every day until 9 p.m. or half an hour before sunset, whichever is earlier.
The gardens are beautiful and feature numerous areas to explore. Dedicated volunteers ensure they remain stunning throughout the year.
Let's meet John to find out more.
My name's John. I helped start the Nonsuch Voles volunteer group about 12 years ago here at Nonsuch Park. We mainly do gardening and we're active throughout the year, even in winter when there's lots of pruning and weeding and other work to be done. It really started when a group of local residents were interested in helping to improve the gardens here and to get outside and work and be active. So we started the group, and since then we've probably had over 30 different volunteers with us. Normally we've got about 10 people at any one time, and people can find out about us mainly from our website, nonsuchvoles.org.uk, where there's contact information to tell you how to get in touch with us if you're interested in volunteering. And people like it because it's a chance to get out and about. Most of us are retired, but we have also a lot of people who are maybe in between jobs, or people who are before they go to college who want to come and spend some time with us. So initially when we set the group up, we got in touch with the Epsom and Ewell staff who also work here, and of course we work very closely with them, and we came up with a sort of an annual plan of activities that are common to most gardens, but a lot of them are specific to the garden here as well. And then now, after 12 years, we're pretty clued up on what needs doing when, but a lot of it's dependent on the weather. So I mean, recently we've had some very wet weather, and that means, for example, that the grass is growing like mad, but you don't really want to cut the grass when it's very wet. So we have to adapt, which is always the way with gardening, isn't it? So yes, quite a detailed plan, but sometimes we just literally go around and spot jobs that need doing and get on with it and get things tidied up. The garden's enclosed on this eastern boundary by a wall, parts of which probably go back to the Tudor times when the palace was over on the other side of the park. But probably most of it is now Victorian, and at that particular time it was a very well-known garden because the farmer family who lived in the mansion house obviously ran it as a private estate, and they were very proud of the plants that they'd collected from around the world and that they grew in the gardens. So the wisteria, which grows along that eastern wall, which is amazing, sort of at the end of April, beginning of May, with its beautiful purple flowers, that was probably 150 plus years old, that plant. The area very near to the mansion house is the extremely formal area, if you like. It's the area with all the box hedging and is kept looking very, very neat indeed. The back of the garden has always been, probably not had quite so much attention over the years, but just recently we've started working on restoring an area where there was an old greenhouse. And if you go around there now, you can see a recently restored greenhouse wall, which was done by a professional company, but the Voles have got involved in landscaping the area and making some of the other brickwork safe, and we're hoping to open that up to the public in a few weeks actually. So the back of the garden is an area that's called the Pinetum, which is where around about the 1850s the farmer family again planted all these trees that they'd collected from around the world, and so there's some very old trees from America and Asia and other parts of the world. And if you go into that area now, it's very, very peaceful. It's away from where most of the visitors go, and it's a lovely place to sit and listen to the birds. There's some very old trees there, as I say, and it's fairly informally managed, so there's a lot of wildflowers there in the spring. And yeah, I would encourage anyone who just wants to get a bit of peace and quiet to go and sit there. So the bothy is a little brick structure over in the corner of the garden there, and as I mentioned, in the 1800s this was quite a famous garden because of the planting that was going on here and the plants that were grown in the greenhouses. And the bothy was basically where the under gardeners or the apprentice gardeners would base themselves so they could keep the fires stoked in the winter in the greenhouses. So the structure became dilapidated over the years, but the Friends of Nonsuch have recently restored it, and it's now quite a nice little structure there with a sign explaining the history. The rose arch, there's probably a rose arch here going back to the late 1700s, and the arch you see here today now has been restored probably about 20 years ago, but it's still got many beautiful roses. A lot of them are quite fragrant, so as you walk down the arch you get a lovely waft of fragrance from these roses. And the Voles basically spend most of the winter, it's another one of our winter jobs, is to prune the roses back, and it takes a long time, so it's one of our winter jobs that pays off in the summer when all the blooms come out. If you're visiting Nonsuch, it's probably worth dropping down into the dell, which is the dip behind the mansion house, where there's a magnificent plane tree which is probably 300 or more years old, and it would have been planted when the house before the mansion house that you see here was built in probably the mid-1700s. And it's easy to miss, but it is a magnificent tree and it's one of the biggest plane trees in London.
Wow, John certainly knows his stuff, and he's not alone.
Let's hear from Peter and Steve about why they became volunteers.
I'm Peter Lockwood.
Hi, I'm Steve McGowan.
Been a member of the Nonsuch Voles for 11 years now. Not quite the member that's starting, but quite close. I enjoy the fresh air. I walk around the park most days. I just enjoy the different scenery, the changing seasons, how things grow and all the rest of it. And I wanted to do a bit after I retired to help out. And it's a good group, a nice little group of people, and it's good fun as well. We have a joke, a laugh, and yeah, it's good. I think my favourite are these 8 beds here because of the box hedge and the verbena and the purple. It's just perfect. I joined when I attended the Nonsuch Awareness Day, which is like a small fair held on the back of the Nonsuch Mansion House, and I was told about this volunteer group, and then I signed up after that.
So from one of the oldest members, I guess, to the newest. So I'm the newest one to join. I joined in November of last year. But the same story as Peter, really. I'm a long-time user of the park. I've been in the area for 20 years. We're here every week, if not more than. So it's just nice to be able to, now I've got a bit of spare time, to be able to join a group like this and help upkeep the gardens and take a bit of pride in some of the work we've done. When we're walking around with friends, we can say, well, we did this. And I knew about the voles simply from being in the park and seeing them. And then there are leaflets up in the cafe, etc. Went to the website and phoned John from there. My favourite part of the garden would be the rose arch, and particularly the view from the rose arch back to the manor house. It's beautiful.
So running a volunteer group has expenses. We have to buy tools for the group, we buy plants for Nonsuch Park, and to fund ourselves we make items from woodcraft. And most of the wood that we use comes from Nonsuch Park, because in the winter we do woodland management and we have coppiced hazel, sycamore, and also slabs of wood that have been milled from any trees that have blown over in storms. So our woodcraft is normally small items like candle holders, coasters, but we also make coffee tables and stools and chairs, and this helps us to fund ourselves. We attend a couple of craft fairs each year and all the proceeds go back to Nonsuch Park.
Thanks, John. You and the voles do keep busy, and what an amazing job you do.
We've come over to the terrace where the wall of the greenhouse has been restored.
What an incredible inspiration for our craft activity. Let's make a pop-up greenhouse. You will need the greenhouse template printed on card, colouring pencils or pens, scissors, and a glue stick. Step 1. Use your colouring pencils or pens to colour in your greenhouse template. Take your time, it's a relaxing activity, perfect to do with a cuppa, and you get to decide what grows inside your greenhouse and what colour are the flowers. Step 2. Cut out the main card, the bird, flower pots and the wheelbarrow. Step 3. Cut along the 2 straight lines in the middle of the main card on either side of the greenhouse and fold along the dashed lines to make it pop up. Running a finger or the side of a pencil along the folds will help it hold its shape. Step 4. Use your glue stick to stick the bird, flower pots and wheelbarrow onto your pop-up card. Have fun making yours. It's a beautiful card to keep for yourself or give to a friend.
Our next stop is the Service Wing Museum, which is behind the cafe and house, close to one of the free car parks.
It's run by a knowledgeable group of volunteers and has dedicated gardens for visitors to enjoy. Again, they're maintained by a terrific voluntary team.
Let's catch up with Gerald, the founding member of Friends of Nonsuch.
He can tell us more about that and Nonsuch Palace.
I'm Gerald Smith. I had the bright idea of forming the Friends of Nonsuch in 1991, and it sounds rather grand, but it really was to support the Joint Management Committee, who have the task of looking after Nonsuch. Needless to say, of course, somebody turned to me and said, would you be willing to form it? And like a fool, I said yes. Unfortunately, I'm still here, thanks to the marvellous enthusiasm of the people who've gathered round to make this the place it is. And remember, it's entirely a voluntary organisation, and everything that you see here, the exhibition rooms, the model, the museum, kitchens, all that sort of business, are all provided by us at no cost to anybody. There are only about 4 illustrations anywhere of the palace. the palace was totally destroyed after 1680. The palace was totally destroyed, and consequently everything was dispersed, nobody was interested, and now if you go to the site it's trees and woods. Henry VIII, of course, as you know from history, well, he followed on and believed in absolute monarchy. I mean, he more or less owned the lot, but he picked up the idea of a massive hunting forest with places around it that could house hunting parties. And he probably, again, can't be sure, but we probably picked up the idea at when he visited France. Francis I of France, and he had developed, King Francis, had developed Fontainebleau, and Fontainebleau is a forest, not just a house and a garden, and it had this magnificent palace which was built for him, in Fontainebleau were decorations done in stucco, which was an artificial stone that can be manufactured, and so you can put it into moulds, and instead of having to carve everything, you just mould and repeat and so on. This idea must have taken on with Henry, and I think he probably had this idea that, what a wonderful idea this is, why don't I have, you see? And not just the interior galleries, which Francis had done at Fontainebleau, a gallery done in stucco. He's going to have a whole palace done in stucco, and use this technique to plaster the outside of the place with these models, which when new looked exactly like marble. It was a marvellous idea. Henry at Nonsuch decided that they would go in for a system of supply of water. So what you do here, you build 2 towers, one either side, and you put tanks in the top. You go from here out to Howell Hill, just down the road, and you find a pure stream coming out, probably the joint between the chalk and the clay. The water came down up the towers to the tanks. You can take pipes from under the tanks to anywhere you want in the palace, and you can turn the tap on and you've got running water. I mean, it's a miracle. Well, they must have seemed so to the peasants and so on at the time. Henry died the year before it was finished, by the way. So he never really lived in the place properly.
Thank you, Gerald. What an intriguing history. It's unbelievable that such a grand palace once stood within the Nonsuch landscape.
Absolutely, Annalise, and I adore the palace model and the historical information panels. It's a fantastic place to visit and learn more in person.
But for now, we will explore the museum guided by the wonderful Wendy and Ian.
Hello, I'm Wendy,
And I'm Ian.
and we're going to take you on a tour of the Nonsuch Service Wing Museum.
Our first stop is the dairy.
Not the original building, but a fantastic representation.
On our tour, look out for the featured mini-maids. There's one in every room.
So if you came in the tour here, this will be the first room you come into, and it is representing the dairy. We don't have access to the dairy, I'm afraid, and so we have articles in here which represent the dairy. And so we have the butter churn. When the milk came in, we would take the cream off and make butter in the butter churn. And in the winter time, we would put some carrot juice in it because it would be very pale, because the cows wouldn't have been eating nice grass. We also have a yoke to carry the buckets from the farm into the dairy. And there are also some lovely delft tiles in the storage place, which are authentic.
I can see you were taken with being a milkmaid, Luna.
It was okay without actually carrying any heavy milk pails.
Well, take a rest and we'll learn more museum facts from Ian.
Yeah, this is the entrance to the scullery. Outside we've got 2 toilets. Now these are quite old, going back to 1800s, 1850. This one comes from the mansion house. It was found in there and we managed to renovate it and paint it. So everybody's quite interested in this because it was a Thomas Crapper. Here we have another commode which has got a step underneath which pulls out. We thought it was for children to step on, but it's not. It's for adults to step on the top, like on there, and into bed, because the beds were quite high and the people were quite short.
Thanks, Ian. It's amazing how Thomas Crapper invented the modern toilet.
Let's join Wendy inside the museum.
So this is the second room, and it is the outer scullery. We don't have access to the butler's pantry or the housekeeper's room, and so instead we have put things that they would use into this room. This is not a knife sharpener, as everybody usually thinks, but it is a knife polisher. Put the knives in here and some polish in, turn the handle like mad, and you get a nice clean knife. And in here we have what the butler would look after, the nice china and the silver and all that sort of thing. That would be the butler's responsibility. And over here we have these are shoe lasts that the footman would use to mend the shoes, because remember that they would be leather soles, not the sort of soles we have now, and so when you've got a little hole you can put a new piece of leather on and mend it. And the chair here was found on the estate, and it was, as you can see, the back is made of tree roots, and it was after we opened, an old gentleman came round and then brought back a picture, and it is of his mother sitting on the chair with a baby, which could have been him, and his father, who was the bailiff eventually on the estate.
I expect John and the Voles took inspiration from the tree root chair to create their wooden masterpieces from the estate.
Right, this is the inner scullery. As you can see, deliveries came to the scullery, the outer scullery, then to the inner scullery. They'd done all the cleaning in here of the vegetables and things when they arrived. The water was done here, heated. And here we have a leaded lined sink, which is going back to the Georgian times. No, sorry, this was Victorian times. Georgian period before that. We have the original sink, which is down here, stone sink, which we'd moved to accommodate the lead-lined sink.
Gosh, we take hot running water for granted when we turn on the tap.
This is the kitchen. Every year we do a different menu in the kitchen, and this year it's a Lenten lunch. So that means a lunch that was eaten during Lent, so there will be no meat in it at all. All the crockery was donated to us, so it wasn't here when the Friends of Nonsuch took over the kitchen. It was donated to us since. This is the original range that was here when the house was built. There is a mirror so that you can see up the chimney, and there is a sort of propeller that would be attached to chains and pulleys above here, above the fireplace, so we didn't have to have a little boy to turn the spit. It would turn itself.
Imagine being a child and having to turn that spit all day.
Being a milkmaid doesn't sound quite so bad, right?
This is one of the first fridges, probably over 100 years old, and when the ice melted, there's a pipe going down and it goes into a drip tray at the bottom, which is under there. Obviously these big blocks of ice if you can believe it, was shipped over from the Baltic Sea. They had an ice house here as well. The ice house is gone now, unfortunately, but they would have stored ice here as well. This is a water filter which they used because the water wasn't particularly clean in them days, years ago, and it was filtered through these type of things. I think it was charcoal that they used for filtering for drinking water. So I had to be very careful with the water. That's why they drank a lot of beer.
Now you're talking, Ian. A cool beer after a hard day in the kitchen.
No time for beer, Luna. Wendy has more to tell us.
This is the game larder. The game larder and the pastry larder were built on later on in the 1860s. Not all houses had a game larder and pastry larder, so this really was to show that they were going up in the world. So this is where all the meat and fish would be stored, and as you can see, it's built to be very, very cold. It's octagonal, and it has a stone floor and slate shelves, and also outside the eaves go all the way over so that the sun doesn't get in very much and it's very cold. We have a Dutch crown, and this is where they would hang the pheasants after they've been shooting. They would, because they hung them for a few days before they prepared them for the kitchen, and so they would hang them on the Dutch crown and then pull it up, and it would go right up, and then they would leave it there until they were ready to bring them down and prepare them for the table.
Pheasant for dinner, anyone?
Not for us. We've got laundry to do. Come on.
Here we are in the laundry. Got two areas for the laundry. We've got the dry laundry, which is there, and the wet laundry. We're in the wet laundry. Here they collect rainwater from the roof, goes into a tank outside underground, and then the maid up there is pumping a stirrup pump, so the water goes into the tank and then it goes all the way along into the copper. This is obviously called a copper because it's made of copper inside. So the washing was done in there. That would be boiling away all day long, and they'd use the tongs on the top for dipping the clothes in. They had special shoes for keeping off the wet floor, because afterwards the hot water would come out and wash the floor, and it would go into a drain in the corner. This is a box mangle. Obviously we've had smaller mangles in the other room, but in here we've got this big large one for large items like sheets, etc., that I had to get the excess water out of. Now, if you look at the mechanism and look at the box, this was full of weights, heavy weights, bricks probably, and it bared down on the clothes as they were being wrung out. Now, if we take it back this way, you'll see how it works. As you get to the end, it lifts up on the mechanism, and then you can pull the rollers out, put your sheet in for your next item, put the rollers in, and then take the box back. It drops down and pushes all the water out. But it's a clever mechanism. This is the Victorian workmanship.
I think I found my calling in the laundry.
It looks like hard work, Luna, but you'd build your muscles up in a few weeks.
And then I could carry the milk buckets as well.
We're in the dry laundry still, and here we have lots of iron rests from the Victorian period. As you can see, they're all in beautiful designs, not like we'd have today, which would just be a plain piece of metal or whatever. Also, the clothes could be dried round the fire, and here we have all sorts of different things that they would iron. And this is for ironing things like the lovely frills on this bonnet. And so you would open it up and take out the middle bit and put it in the fire or wherever to warm up. And when it was warm up, You would then use the iron bit to make all the lovely pleats like that. This is what was called a turtle in the laundry, and it was for keeping lots of irons warm at the same time. So you would have your fire in here to keep it warm. You would use one iron. They would go cool very swiftly, so you could put it back. You didn't have to wait for it to warm up. You could just take another one. And they used to make really big ones holding up to 100 irons for places like hotels, hospitals, prisons.
Those turtle towers were an incredible piece of engineering. Such a lot of work to iron everything.
I'm surprised that the crease look wasn't more popular.
Right, now we're at the last place on our tour. The stable was next door. This is the loose box where the horses would come that were sick, obviously, and be looked after in here. Going back to the 1800s, obviously, but now we turned it into an exhibition room.
This is a stained glass that was found in pieces in the kitchen, in a cupboard in the kitchen, and we know that at some point it would have been in the house. The three middle panels are roughly the 1850s, mid-19th century, but the two end ones are Swiss marriage panels. It was a custom in the 1600s to give, when a wealthy person got married, to present them with a stained glass panel which showed the profession of the groom. So this gentleman is a cooper, a barrel maker and a coffin maker, which you can see at the top, and the one at the end is a farmer, and his animals are portrayed as well.
What a fascinating introduction to the Service Wing Museum.
Thank you to the wonderful Nonsuch friends for showing us around.
If you worked in the service wing at the main house, I wonder if you could have gone out and enjoyed the parkland.
You could have collected nettles to make tea or delicious nettle and potato soup, a cheap hearty dish to nourish you after a long day, along with your beer.
I'd want to wear thick gloves before attempting that job.
You can find our nettle soup recipe on our website. There are numerous pathways surrounded by grassland and trees that are home to multiple insects and wildlife.
The landscape is beautifully maintained, giving nature the best possible chance to flourish and encouraging pollinators to the area.
Within the parkland there are more benches for sitting and resting.
The local authorities who manage the estate have really thought about the needs of their visitors.
And with so many footpaths to follow, you'll always have a new route to explore. We've created a map of the route we took on our walk. Find it on our website.
Does it include holding up trees?
For a second, you looked incredibly strong there, Annalise.
The trees and plants are amazing, whichever way they choose to grow. And it's also the perfect place to be inspired and take a moment to reflect.
The canopy of leaves, especially when the sun filters through, is a great reminder to look up and admire what is growing above our heads. I always feel better when I'm outside and surrounded by trees and plants.
And what a lovely relaxing place to be in. A perfect place to meditate.
Well, let's go and visit our friend Krista, an holistic therapist in our studio, and she will help us to relax.
We're going to go on a little guided journey, a visualisation, a guided meditation through the wildflower meadows with the sound of the bowl. So take a little bit of time now to allow yourself to feel the connection with the earth. Allow your feet to be gently connected to the earth. And notice an energy that is coming from the hips, down the legs, down through the feet into the earth, like roots grounding down. Notice how that energy grounds deep into the earth and then spreads far and wide, connecting with the energy of all living things. And notice also an energy that is rising up through the spine, up through the crown of the head, like a gentle thread lifting up to the sky. So there's an energy that's grounding down and an energy that's lifting up. And it's almost as though right in the centre of your being there's a still, small space. You can allow yourself to breathe to that still, small space. Your feet are connected with the earth and gently lifted up towards the sky, and the breath fills the body in the space between the earth and the sky. Picture yourself taking a gentle walk down a path through the wildflower meadows. Notice the sensation of the earth beneath your feet, the sensation of the warm, gentle evening sun on your shoulders, the sounds of a breeze blowing through the trees, the sound of insects, the sound of your own footfall, almost linked into the sound of your heartbeat. Taking one foot in front of the other, breathing in and out in your own quiet, steady rhythm. Find a space, a clearing amongst the wildflowers, a space where you can settle. Allow yourself to be seated. Lay back. Notice the points of connection between the body and the earth. The backs of the heels, the calves, backs of the knees and the thighs. Points along the back of the body, the shoulder blades, the backs of the arms, back up to the neck and the back of the head. Allow those points of connection to be warm and soft and heavy. Close the eyes. The eyes are so gently closed, the lids are just touching. And you can smile with the eyes. Allow yourself to notice the sensation of the earth beneath the body, the gentle vibrations of the earth, the warmth and steadiness. Allow the body to be warm and soft and heavy. Notice also the sensation of air on the skin of the hands and the face. Gentle weight of clothes. The body is supported by the earth and held by the air, and the breath fills the body in the space between the earth and the sky. Breathing in and out in your own quiet, steady rhythm. Nothing to do and nowhere to go, simply resting in this space, calm and steady, quiet and still. Time for the body to rest and restore and gently rebalance. Breathing in and out.
Thanks, Krista. What a lovely visualisation and a great way to end our time here at Nonsuch Park.
What a wonderful day. We've met inspiring people and we've learnt lots of new things.
We hope you've enjoyed your Nonsuch virtual day trip too.
Bye for now.
This virtual day trip to Nonsuch Park was created by Whistlestop Arts.
It was commissioned and funded by Epsom and Newell Borough Council. Thank you to everyone who has supported this project.
For more free resources and information about the work we are involved in, please visit whistlestoparts.org.